Gear Tasting Radio is brought to you by Imminent Threat Solutions. ITS provides knowledge that empowers individuals with indispensable skill sets to explore the world and prevail against all threats. Right now, as a special thank you for all podcast listeners, we're offering 10% off in the ITS store. Simply use the code GTR to save 10% at store.itstactical.com. Welcome to Gear Tasting Radio. I am joined today, as always, with Rob Henderson.
Hello.
And myself, Brian Black. I'm joining myself today on the podcast. So today on Gear Tasting Radio, we offer an in-depth look into the usage and philosophy behind the equipment in our lives, as always. Today, though, we're going to be taking a little bit of a deviation and talking about tools. So even though this still classifies as gear and equipment in our lives, it's a little bit different than things we've been talking about so far. So what we thought about was, addressing the tools that we have in our shop at home or up here at the office and things we rely on a regular basis.
To do stuff.
Yeah, to do stuff and build things. And we're always tinkering with something here at the shop and working on things. We can talk about kind of gun-specific tools in another part or another podcast, but this is kind of more what you'd find at a Home Depot or Lowe's or on Amazon that we use on a regular basis.
I'm going to build a thing.
Right.
What am I going to build it with?
Yeah, what do I need?
Yeah.
I would say, just to kind of kick it off, what I depend on probably the most for tools is screwdrivers.
Yep.
That's probably like my number one.
Yep.
And then number two would probably be a drill or a driver.
Yeah.
And then number three might be, I don't know, that's a tough one.
It'd be sockets for me.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say too. Socket set or something like that. So personally, I've always been a fan of Craftsman tools. It's what my grandfather used. They're made in the U.S. I kind of come back to that a lot.
Yeah.
Except in the case of a drill, which I'll get into in a second. But anyway, so just to talk about screwdrivers, I've been using Craftsman screwdrivers forever.
Yeah.
Probably since I got my first set when I was like 16 years old or probably 15 or something. My grandfather bought me a Craftsman toolbox, like the top of a toolbox. You know how there's the bottom. And
so the top to the roller.
rolling. Yeah.
Nice.
So he bought me a top to that. And
awesome.
I've had that still. I use it to this day, and I've had that since I was probably 15 or something like that.
Is it the clear handles with the red and blue on the side for the Craftsman?
Yes, the screwdrivers.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
They have, this is the weirdest thing, they have the best smell to me.
It's horrible.
I love it.
No, it's terrible.
No, I think it's amazing.
It's funny you mentioned that because I was going to bring that up.
As a kid, like I grew up with my dad having them, and I committed that to memory. And then recently, like within the last couple years, I bought a set on Amazon because I got tired of having like a ragtag group of screwdrivers. I had one Craftsman, one this, and I had the wood-handled ones.
Yep.
So I just bought a pack on Amazon that came with everything, and that's the one I've had from then on.
Yeah.
But I love the handle smell.
Yeah, they're interesting. I'll say that. I'm not a big fan, but I can see how some people, I guess, could like the smell. I don't know, really like it. But anyway, yeah, it's something I've done recently too, like within the last few years and I've had those screwdrivers forever. And my original set of screwdrivers was probably like a, I don't know, 8 or 10 piece set or something like that. Yeah. And my old set has, of course you use screwdrivers for anything and everything you shouldn't use.
Well, that's what I was going to say. 80% of the time, I'm not using a screwdriver to do anything with a screw.
Or something stupid like that. So like one of my flatheads has a bent tip on it, and I do stupid shit with screwdrivers all the time.
Oh, yeah.
What I've actually gotten into lately, though, is I bought a kind of like a driver screwdriver, so it's got like it's a ratchet screwdriver almost.
Okay,
So you've got a a reverse and a forward and then a stationary position. So it's like a 3-position screwdriver. And then the butt of the screwdriver holds the different bits that you can dock in and out. It's like a magnetic tip that you can dock bits into. And I've really loved having that because it's super versatile. I can put a bunch of different bits inside the handle and just take that with me wherever I need to go. So if I need a flathead, I got it. Philip said I've got that too. So
those will tackle most any of the projects that you have. The only thing that I don't use them for is like vehicle work. Craftsman makes the little shorties, which I actually prefer for anything in a vehicle because you're always trying to get, like in the engine bay, you're trying to loosen something, and those big ratcheting ones never seem to fit. They're the greatest, and for like I need the torque and stuff, but I can never get it to fit where I need it to go. So
I find myself using those small ones on vehicle repair stuff too, but there are times when I need the leverage of a larger handle though too. So yeah, I mean I think that's been my biggest upgrade, I guess, to screwdrivers is moving or having a ratchet kind, because you just get that, I don't know, mechanical advantage to screwing something in. So it's twice as fast because you're using that ratchet system in it. So I don't know.
Well, I was going to say you're anal retentive enough to not lose the bits.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, more often than not, if someone else uses my tools, I'll come out to find like a missing wrench.
Yep.
And that I can't have that. So I have to have the full set or it just drives me insane. So like with the bits, I have one of those screwdrivers, but like I'm the only one that uses it because like I'm so afraid of someone losing a bit and then I don't have it. Yeah.
Nice.
It's
one thing I've done too is I upgraded the screwdriver set that I got from Craftsman. You know, I've had that one forever and a day, but I bought a new one that's a more it's like a 30 piece one or something like that. And that's the one that's in my toolbox now.
Nice.
And then I took that older set and I put it in the house in a drawer.
Perfect.
So it's like when I'm inside, I don't have to go all the way out to the garage to grab a screwdriver. I can just pull from those screwdrivers that are in the house. So that's been something I've really enjoyed being able to do lately is have a set inside.
We have one in our pantry.
Yeah.
It's a little like I got a little husky bag thing.
That's
and
perfect.
I have like a hammer and they're kind of my throwaway tools. Like if it gets broken or something, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, that's the shit I always find myself using in the house is a hammer, maybe some screws or nails, a screwdriver, and then a measuring tape. So
measuring tape all the time.
Yeah.
You can never have too many measuring tapes.
Agreed.
It's like when you're cooking, you can never have too many cutting boards.
Yeah.
Like it's just one of those staple things. So if you're looking to give somebody a gift in tools, get them a measuring tape.
Yep. Agreed. But yeah, the screwdriver's the big thing. Then we talked about drills. So I've had Craftsman power drills probably since I bought my first one. And, actually, I feel like Kelly and I were talking about this the other day because I just replaced it. It finally gave up the ghost and died. And it's just been kind of like on its way out for about a year. And I just cuss it every time.
Oh, it's the most frustrating thing. Yeah.
I'll just cuss it under my breath. And I'm like, when are you going to just die so I can replace you? Because I won't do it. It's like there was something
it still works.
I couldn't just chunk it when it still worked, So it would finally crawl around and just, come to a complete
takes like 6 times longer to get it to drive something in.
Yeah, the battery would be fully charged. I plug it in and, you got 2 minutes of power on it. It was just horrible. But I couldn't force myself to do it. But finally I dropped it the other day.
And that was it.
And I was like, yes, it's done. And then I posted on Instagram. I was like, okay.
And now your watch has ended.
Yeah. It's cool, though, because I got a lot of comments from people on, what they use and stuff. And I wound up going with a Milwaukee drill.
I've heard really great things about Milwaukee tools.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm enjoying it so far. I mean, granted, I haven't done much with it so far, but it works great. So, every drill works great when it's new. But, we'll see.
Yeah, I have a DeWalt that I really like, but my batteries are starting to go out. So I keep a battery on the charger all the time, which I'm sure is bad for them.
Yeah.
But I don't have the patience to schedule charging the drill battery.
I know.
So I would just rather buy new ones.
Yeah.
So I probably need to buy new ones. But I mean, I don't use it enough that it would get damaged. So it's working. But Milwaukee is kind of the next step of where I'm looking to go with power tools and stuff. Because I have a Milwaukee Sawzall, and I've used that for tons of stuff.
I actually just bought one of those because I upgraded the drill, and then I realized because the Craftsman set I had a Sawzall with it. It had a light and the drill, and I think there was one other a circular saw. So it had all that with the battery packs and all that. You could interchange them. So then when my drill died, I was like, crap!
Yeah.
What am I? So
you have to upgrade. Yeah. Obviously.
I threw the charger away from my Craftsman, and then I realized, oh crap, I need to keep that because
none of your other tools will work.
Yeah, I noticed that I had all these other ones, and I'm like, well, I don't want to get rid of this.
Yeah.
But I did wind up buying a Milwaukee Sawzall because I had to cut some piping from fence posts, like those metal aluminum fence posts.
Yeah.
And I did that with a Sawzall. So
I had a theater teacher that always talked about the Sawzall as no one should ever use a Sawzall. It just works really well, but it's not ever the perfect tool to be using. Because if you're going to do stuff like that, like getting an angle grinder and doing it correctly, and there's always a way to do it better. But the Sawzall is just like, I need it done and I need it done fast.
Yep.
Let me get this, and it does exactly what it advertises.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of like my go-to tool that I want to just break shit with.
Yeah, so. I need to cut something, so I'm going to do that. I'm trying to think of the other. I use jigsaws a lot, especially if we're getting into woodworking and stuff. If I don't need really accurate cuts or really nice finished edges, I'll use a jigsaw. Those are real quick. I have an old, I think it's Porter cable. I have 2 Porter cable. I have one corded drill, which is when the driver gives up. And like I had a neighbor that had a fence post rot off and it broke. And so the fence post was stuck in the ground and he was using his, I don't know, DeWalt like cordless driver and it wasn't doing anything. And so I went over and got my Porter cable and I gave it to him and he had the wood bits, the wide ones. And it didn't, I mean, there's no safety levers or anything on this. It's from like the 60s. And I mean, he just had that fence post drilled out in a few minutes. So I have that and then I have a Porter cable jigsaw.
Yeah, sometimes you can't beat the versatility of a corded drill.
It's just the power. And there's no batteries. And like, especially older tools, if they still work, like they didn't have like government regulations about speed or anything. And like, it's got some horsepower behind it. So you can really get some stuff done.
It goes all out, man.
Yeah.
That's the way it works.
Yeah. It's all or nothing.
Yeah,
it has one speed. There's no speed adjustments on it either.
Yep. And you got to have the true chuck tool to get
Absolutely.
it off.
What was the other thing we talked about? Oh, ratchet sets.
Yeah.
So I have like 4 different socket sets. Because, like, I don't know, I've always got them as gifts. People give them to me.
Do you have both standard and metric?
I do. I have 2 sets of standard, 2 sets of metric, and then I have a bunch of really specific socket types because I had that old Jeep Wrangler, and so I have the exact socket for like the transmission fluid because I had to get that off there.
Your 2 different sets, are they a standard socket and then a deep socket?
Yep.
Okay.
I have standard socket and deep socket, and the deep socket ones I need to get new ones because it's the ratchet is real tiny, and the I don't know what you call it, the square end that goes into the socket itself is too small. It's an 1/8 inch instead of a 1/4 inch. So I'm constantly, also the switch on the back, I'm constantly nicking it. So as you're tightening, it'll stop tightening and lock up. So it really frustrates me.
A couple of years ago, I allowed myself to replace all my sockets.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to do it because I had a mix match of all different kinds of crap, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to Sears. I'm going to buy myself some really good sockets. I'm going to get standard. I'm going to get metric. I'm going to get regular. I'm going to get deep. I got everything.
And it's not that expensive.
No, it really wasn't too bad. It's like a couple $100 at the most. But I allow myself to do it.
Right.
It's like I even got the adapter bits, the extensions, the 1/4 to half and half to 3/4 and all that kind of stuff. And it's just great knowing that I have everything that I need.
That's good. Yeah. I have a breaker bar that I bought from Harbor Freight because I wasn't sure if I actually needed a breaker bar. So
you just get conduit, man. That's what I have for my breaker bar.
That would work to give an extension.
You just put conduit over the
ratchet handle. I was not in my right mind. I was very upset at this Jeep, so I had driven to Harbor Freight and I just asked the guy. I said, "I need the biggest socket or the biggest ratchet you have." And he took me over to I didn't take their biggest one because their biggest one is for like semi trucks. I bought the a standard size one, but I have that, and I use Harbor Freight as both like shop towels and stuff like that, but then also like cheap tools that I want to try. Like I'm not sure. I bought an orbital sander from them a while back because I was doing a wood project and I wasn't sure that orbital sander was going to work. So it was like $20, and I guess I probably could have returned it, but it was $20.
Yeah,
it's still working. So I think my next upgrade would be like a Milwaukee's orbital sander or something like that. So buy once, cry once. But on this, I only had to spend $20, and if it didn't work, I'd only be out $20.
Well, I'm seriously considering getting into like hardcore woodworking stuff.
Yeah,
because I want to build my own arcade cabinet. Like that's my thing. So I need a project that will push me into having to buy some certain tools. Like I won't just go out and buy them.
Yeah,
like I don't.
You have to have a need.
Like a router. I'm not just going to go buy a router just to have a router. I need some kind of project to force me to buy a router. Yeah, because
then it makes sense.
Right. Well, I gotta have this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm hoping because I know I need a router for that project, and I'm going to need I've got a jigsaw up here at work, but I don't have one at home, so I just take that one back and forth, and also like a, I guess it's called skill saw, like the
miter saw.
Miter saw.
Miter
yes,
saw.
Thank you. Yeah, so I know I'm going to need a better miter saw system and something to set it on, like a miter table and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, I'd love to have an actual, saw. What's the saw?
Table saw.
Table saw. Well, is it called a table saw? The one where you can crank up the...
Oh, yeah.
The saw blade.
The one that'll kill you if you're not
I guess it is a table saw, isn't it?
I love table saws, but I fear them.
Oh, I fear them
just
to
because
death.
of what I've seen it do, and I haven't even seen anybody get injured. I've just seen it throw things, and I'm like,
well,
whoa.
see, I was still in school when you could take shop.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you took shop or not, but that was one thing we worked on is table saws and all that kind of stuff. You know, Mr. Brady, our shop teacher, would tell us that, you know, he was missing part of his finger, and he would tell the horror story of like how he lost it, and I don't think he really lost it on a table saw, but he told everybody he did. Yeah, he's like, all right, this is how you use the table saw. Look, see my finger? You don't want that.
That's how he got the job.
Yeah, exactly. Can you teach shop? Look at my hand, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
You see this?
I'm a testament. Yeah, table saw's a good one.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd like to get a table saw. I'd like to use my, like I've got a big shop vac, like a Craftsman shop vac, and I want to put tubing on it to go to all the different tools to actually have that filtration system set up. So I've been watching some YouTube videos on how to set one of those up. But that's kind of something that I'd like to do. But it's kind of an all or nothing. Like if I'm really going to do this, I got to go full bore. Like I don't have two speeds when it comes to that kind of crap. Like if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right, and I'm going to buy good tools. And that's kind of what's preventing me from doing it, because I know the cost involved.
It's like a $10,000 arcade cabinet.
Yeah, no kidding.
Once you start,
but I can make another one.
Right, exactly. Do you have a compressor?
Yes.
Yeah. I want to build a quiet chamber for my compressor. I saw
I'd love to do that.
Adam Savage did it. He used soundproofing foam and like lead to build a box to put his compressor in.
Nice.
And now it runs. I mean, you can hear it running, but it's at a quiet, manageable volume. Because I have to drag mine outside. Oh yeah, it's terrible.
How big is? Because I've got a huge tank. It's one of those stand-up ones.
Mine's not a stand-up. Mine's just on the ground, but it's old and it's rattly. And so I mean, when it's on, you know it. Like neighbors know it.
Well, I've slowly been, like, as I've been upgrading tools and stuff, I'm working towards being able to restore another Volkswagen Carmen Ghia. Like, that's my goal one of these days. So, like, when I bought a new compressor, I knew that I needed a big one to run power tools and stuff like that.
Impact drivers and stuff.
Exactly. So, I bought the driver and the socket wrench, or whatever you call it, like the impact wrench.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. So, I have that ability now. And I've only used it to, like, change it or rotate tires or something like that, but
hey, that's more handy than having to drive down and put money in and get air and all that.
Yeah, so that's nice.
Yeah. So for like little tools, what are your favorite? Like I have tools that I consider like
I really like little tools,
hidden gems, like that nobody ever told me about. Like the one you introduced me to was the it's I don't remember the name, but it makes the screws flush in the wood.
Yeah, the
yeah, I'm doing the same thing. Yeah, and I have a bunch of them. I have no idea what they're called, and I'm sure listeners are like,
you put me on the spot. God, not boring bits.
No, it's like it's that. There are people listening that are just like, it's called this.
I know, that's what I'm doing in my head right now to myself.
But that's been great because, you know, if I'm doing, especially like cabinets or anything like that, you can make the screw flush and you can fill it in with the wood and sand it down. The other little tools I love are, I keep saying little tools, but like handheld stuff. There's a company called Nipex that makes nippers, which are like for cables, and that's been really great for especially vehicle stuff when I can't reach it with maybe a pair of dikes or wire cutters. I'll be able to just get in there and do that. And the other one that I loved for woodworking was chalk lines. I never really used them much in our shop class, but like as soon as I saw, especially for jigsaws and things like that, I hate marking that out because I have to keep it accurate, and like if your T-square doesn't go far enough. But with a chalk line, you can just snap that line and now you have something to saw against.
Yeah.
I really like that.
I guess something that's kind of along those lines is I just bought something that I actually bought it like 3 months ago, and I probably just used it for the first time, and I know I did. I opened it.
Yeah.
But so I was doing some outside electrical work stuff, and I took off one of our uplights from our house because it wasn't working. And, you know, I was sitting there messing around with it. I was like checking all the connections, like what's going on? What's the deal? And then I was like, man, I wish I really had a way to know whether it was even getting power.
Multimeter.
Right. So I have a multimeter, but it confuses the shit out of me most days. So I bought this little thing that's just a little tester that beeps.
Oh, that's
so
perfect.
You just hold it up to the wire, and if it's a hot wire, it goes beep, and it lights up. And I'm like, that's all I need.
That's so useful.
Yeah. So I opened that up, and I was able to use it, and I was like, this is great. And I found out there wasn't even getting power, so I'm like, okay, great. Now I got to call an electrician. But at least I know.
Right.
You know, it's like, I love getting to that point with home projects where I get to the biggest, I guess, like the biggest part of my ability. Like,
Right.
I can't go any further. It's
Right.
like, okay.
Because that's
now
kind
I
of
need
a relief.
Right. It
You're
is.
like, oh,
it is a relief,
thank goodness.
actually. Because I beat myself up about it. It's like another thing on my list that I got to do. And
Yeah.
then, I get to the point where I'm like, okay, now I got to call somebody.
Well, and I'd hate because you get it. The other end is like, oh, I don't know enough about it, and then you call an electrician out, and he like replaces a fuse in your
know.
box, and then you're
Yeah.
like, well, now I feel stupid.
Well, that's what happened on something a long time ago. I had a problem with one of our outdoor lights, and the guy came out, and this was, when I was early into home ownership, and I just wanted it fixed. And he came out, and all he had to replace is a wire nut. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm paying for this.
You're gonna like hide.
I felt so stupid.
Send
he,
me the bill and just
took
leave.
off 2 screws, put a wire nut. I'm like, oh my God, I don't feel like a man
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly.
It was
Like
terrible.
I should be able to do this. Something tells me.
I feel ashamed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I love doing at home is, small projects like that. But I always feel like I'm doing something, and I look back and I'm like, man, I waste a lot of my life doing stuff like this, but I enjoy it too. So.
And it's a hobby aspect.
Yeah.
If I didn't want to work on cars and stuff like that, I wouldn't. I would have that done. But it's really empowering to like, I mean, it sucks to go out and try to turn the car over and it doesn't start, but it's like, okay, well now let's figure out what's going on. And then when you replace it and it works, it's just such an empowering feeling of like, I did this.
Yeah.
It was broken and now it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And then of course, Kelly has got a big list for me to do around the house.
But that's not fun stuff. Like, I need to replace this piece of trim in the kitchen, but that's not fun. I don't want to do that. I'll build like a lockbox or something, I'll do that before I'll do.
Do you have any projects that you're working on?
I want to build sliding drawers for the back of my Jeep.
Cool.
So I want to do them in carpet and have them on like ball bearings, sliders and stuff. So I'm kind of experimenting and looking at different materials, probably MDF currently. And I haven't really started it. I'm just kind of like drawing it out. I have plans, but I want to be able to have kind of like a fold out leg too. So if I wanted to put a top on it and have like a table.
Interesting.
So kind of keep having features and stuff. I built that lockbox for my old Jeep, and that went well, but it was kind of a learning experience to see like, don't have the exposed hardware on the outside so people can just undo it.
Yeah.
But this will be closed up inside of it. So that, and then other than that, I don't really have anything currently working.
Nice.
Yeah.
What I'd love to have at some point too is a sandblasting cabinet.
Oh, yeah.
I've always wanted one of those. I don't know really what I'd do with it other than sandblast car parts.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Just having it.
I did that on an old vehicle. I remember, instead of having to sand stuff down to paint it, I just put it in the sandblasting cabinet and spray it down to the bare metal and prime it or something. So, yeah.
The other thing that I had been doing every chance I get is if I have anything that has screws in it, I've got an Ace Hardware like 2 blocks down the street, so it's real quick to get up to. I'll remove the screw if it's Phillips or flat, and I go down to the hardware store and I buy Torx replacements. Same length, same
That's a great
width.
idea.
And then, because Torx is the greatest thing ever.
I know.
For a bit. And so all the time, whoever got that old Jeep that I had, it's got all Torx pretty much everywhere.
Nice.
Which is great. And
there's somebody cussing you too. They're like, oh, God, I don't even have any Torx.
Torx? What is this? Yeah. But I've never had a Torx. I wouldn't say that. Very rarely do I have a Torx strip on me.
Yeah.
Other screws will, but I've twisted Torx bits on stubborn screws, and then you have to hit it with a PB blaster, which works great, but takes 12 hours or whatever to set properly.
I backed a project on Kickstarter. This is probably a year or two ago, but I think they were called like knife edge bits, but it was a Phillips. They were Phillips head bits. But they had really sharp edges on it, so it came to a really sharp point, and you could like bite them into things that might be on their way to being stripped out. It wasn't really
Gotcha.
It really wasn't a bit to extract bits that had become super stripped out. I mean, you probably could at some point if you kind of like forced it in there or something
almost
like
like
that.
a chisel type thing.
That's the thing I don't have that would be a tool that would be on my list is something to like a die and tap set, to remove broken heads on screws and bolts and things like that. That's something I've really never got into, which I would like to do eventually. But
I've done.
Is that what's called? Tap and die.
Tap and die.
Yeah.
And But the problem is at a certain point, you're going to have to drill it anyway. Mm-hmm. So I do everything in my power to make sure I don't have to. One of the tricks I've learned is if you've got that where it'll slip and your screwdriver keeps slipping, if you take a piece of rubber band and put it in there, it'll give it a little... I've
heard of that too.
It'll give it a little more grip.
I feel like I've tried that before.
Most of the time you can get it out. If not, I've done everything. If you can get the exposed head of the screw, I'll put vice grips on it and crank
too.
on it. But I try everything I can to avoid having to drill.
Oh, I completely agree.
And that's, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know the first thing about actually tapping,
They're great. You usually have to make the hole bigger.
Right.
Because you're going to...
You drill it out, put that in, and then you're basically re-threading it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's great. They're great tools to have, but like you said, I feel like that's one of those things where I'm like in over my head, so I would do more damage than I would do good.
Yeah, I might defer to somebody else at that point anyway.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. No, the project that I want to do with the arcade cabinet, I'm going to do it out of MDF too, but I obviously need the ability to cut very large pieces of MDF.
Right.
And I'm thinking a jigsaw will probably be the best thing to use for that. And then the router is more not for the cutout of the shape, but there's actually this piping that goes along the edge of video game cabinets. You might have seen them in arcades.
Okay.
But it's almost like a rubberized
like a laminate
plastic.
type?
Yeah, it's like a strip that
okay.
goes on
Yeah.
there.
I know what you're
router
talking about.
would be used to
cut the channel for that?
Yeah.
Nice.
But I'm going to do something based on... I don't know if I'm going to do it on the Raspberry Pi or an actual computer. It'll probably be the Pi because they're so versatile nowadays. Yeah. But that's kind of what I'm going to do is build my own arcade cabinet and run it on that and a monitor and be able to... Like, it's going to have legit arcade controls, like a joystick and buttons. And
so everything. Are you going to route, like, a USB port to the back of it? Or are you going to do the thing... Like, are you going to make it to where it has to open to get into it?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So there's a couple of things that I've looked at online. One guy has plans. I don't know if I'm going to use those or not, but... obviously a Raspberry Pi is so small.
Sure.
And the cabinet's so large. Yeah. Really, you could do it on a desktop and just have a monitor set up and just make your own arcade.
It's more from a nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what I'm going to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You should do you could put like a beer keg in the bottom and
that would be fun.
Because you're going to have the empty space anyway, or, being able to...
I need to figure out something to do with all that space, that's for sure. I don't know whether to make it storage or
You're going to make it take quarters?
It would be fun. Yeah. Just go into a big sack in the bottom and not do anything. Be like, hey, put your quarters in, man.
You got friends over, you hide the quarters. It's like, you got to bring your own, man.
That would be fun.
I like that.
All right. Thanks for listening to Gear Tasting Radio. Check our episode intel. We'll put a bunch of links on some of the tools we talked about and resources that we discussed during Gear Tasting Radio. Yep. And, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you like what we're doing here on Gear Tasting Radio. If you do, please subscribe, rate, review. We'd love to hear what you think. Tune in every Tuesday. And as always, use the # Gear Tasting on any social media network if you have any questions. Thanks again.